Welcome to the Node.js Technical Steering Committee meeting for May 22nd, 2022. Before we get started, are there any announcements people would like to share?
Yes, I have one. NodeConf EU is back. It's going to be in Waterford starting from the 3rd to the 6th of November 2024. And tickets are on sale and the CFP is open.
That's great news. Good to see
So
that Node conference happening again.
it's happening. So it's big thanks to Nearform for hosting this again. And it's back in the original location, so it's back at Waterford Castle.
Sounds good. Any other announcements?
I think it's worth to mention welcome to Marco to the TSC. It's his first meeting, and usually you need to talk a fun moment from you. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone, and it's an honor to be here. Well, that's it.
Yeah, and thanks for joining. Okay, we can move on. Any other announcements? Sorry.
Yeah, there was a Node 18 release yesterday, 1820.3. It fixed a regression with idle connections with HTTP. So in Node 18.19.0, there was an accidental regression introduced where idle connections were being closed, but that was a Semver major change. So we've fixed that now in Node 18. So that went out yesterday.
There is also the dreaded fix for the finalization registry issues that has been personally plaguing my life for at least 1 year almost. So, but almost more than 6 months, less than a year probably. So yeah, pretty bad.
That's good. Any other announcements? Okay, if not, we'll move on to our reminders. Of course, the reminder to, if you see people who would be good nominees for the Spotlight program, please nominate them. On to CPC and board meeting updates. Matteo, anything you'd like to share from the board meeting front?
The board is coming up. There's a board meeting this Friday, and I hope we can give an answer to a few of the questions about SQLite that we were making. Then we have there is actually a big announcement happening. Okay, that does not impact Node yet. Okay, we have just launched a new program within the OpenJS Foundation. Which is the OpenJS Foundation Ecosystem Sustainability Program. And it's a new program that allows for commercial companies to step up in the maintenance of end-of-life releases. Okay, and with a revenue share model. Okay. So and every gold and platinum member can join. They can discuss with the foundation an agreement to join this program. So, which means that will be money available for funding the work of the projects that are part of it. The first project I think is going to be jQuery. And which for various reasons needs the funds. So it's pretty good. So pretty win-win-win-win-win situation. You can read more at this link.
So is that where at some point the project will need to decide if it wants to opt in or not?
Yeah, exactly.
That's also the discussion we had, I don't know, 3 meetings ago about like getting that work to support like initiatives such as CGM and CI and so on.
No, these are two completely different things. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That it's a grant that we applied for, and we are both Michael, myself, and Robin have been working on the application for it. Okay, mostly Robin and Michael. I have to say I've been only doing some. I've done a few contributions, but the bulk was done by them, and I we are going back and forth. They are asking some clarification questions. Okay.
But yeah, the submission deadline for that was last Friday, so we
Yeah.
did submit, and there's been a few questions back.
We made we handled it between Michael and myself and Robin, mostly because there was absolutely no time to add more people to review. So it was literally being done by at least by everybody was literally in the usually we'll need way more time for this type of application if we wanted to do involve everybody. Okay, so
Yeah, and I think we did, like, when Robin came, I can't remember if you were there, Matteo, but like Robin came and presented the program to the TSC. We did have a bit of discussion, and I think what was in the proposal reflects.
Yeah, it was
what we
absolutely
discussed,
reflecting
so.
what we discussed about in that
Yeah,
meeting. Okay,
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
just the writing of it that was not.
Yeah.
All right.
Shared.
Yeah, ideally we would have had a lot more time. It was like
Yeah,
3 or
it
4
was
days.
a super close call. Like, to be honest, it turned the actual thing actually turned out to be pretty good if considering how quickly it was put together. So
No, so I think, Raphael, your question, like, this is a different program.
Yeah.
And Robin has come and presented on it in an earlier meeting. It's the first person is like the Hero Devs is the company that's going to be participating, and so if you remember her talking about that, then that would be what that.
Oh yeah, I remember that discussion. I was just missing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other board updates, Matteo,
nope.
or CPC updates?
Not I'm aware of. I've been mostly focusing on those kind of stuff. So nope, not that I am aware.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember anything either. So okay, so let's move on to issues. So the first one is Backport and DT message event B20.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, the question is very simple. We change, so the 4 errors that are coming, that are standard errors, okay? They, I think, lack error code, okay? And we changed the text so that in that undici change, the text was modified, okay? And the question is, can we backport it to 22? That will simplify long-term maintenance of the project.
So the error codes are the same?
There is no error codes.
Ah, okay.
Like to 20 or 22?
To 22, sorry, 22. It landed now. So the key point here is don't.
Okay.
We probably don't want to, like, this is a source of it's a tiny change with a big source of possible divergence over time. That's the question I am.
Yeah, I remember discussing if error messages are strict to Semver Major. And I remember that we have defined that only error codes are susceptible to
Yeah,
Semver
but
Major.
the problem is that we don't have a code here.
Okay.
So yeah,
It's not better to, okay.
so that's there. Because it's an error of a WHAT2G standardized error. Okay. So it's adding an error code there would, as somebody would say, diverge from the spec.
Right.
We can create a pull request, backporting, run CGM, and
It
see.
doesn't need a back. Oh, you need. I suspect it won't break anybody, but it's but I overall, even if it breaks somebody, yeah, we can check if you want. I would just land it and just land it the next. I would propose we land it in the next release, and then when you include it, if it shows up in SIGIM, it shows up in SIGIM. But frankly, I don't expect it to.
So this is like the changes were to make them compliant with the spec.
I don't have an answer for that.
I think
so.
What,
I think so. My
after that,
understanding is that's my understanding. But if you want, we can ask this. Yeah, it's in line with all the other errors coming from the Undici WebEDL from the WebEDL specification. So essentially, I think it's a matter of consistency. That's it. I don't know what you. So are we all okay? Are we all? Does anybody object in landing this in putting the do not backport to 20 and 18 tagged, and then verify in an XLT in the next 22 release if that is problematic?
I
So
think
the
that makes sense for
proposal
me.
and backport to 22, but
Yeah.
not 20 and 20 and 18.
Exactly.
Since the errors are spec compliant, I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm writing it on the issue.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. And the next one is add links to security steward companies. This was put on the agenda by, I think Benjamin added it. He's not here this week. I think it was, basically we should have feedback from the TSC if there's any concerns on that front. I'm not sure what people think. Mind, don't mind.
Isn't it the case already?
Sorry, go ahead.
Isn't it the case already?
I can't hear you. You're very quiet or muffled or something. So Ryan, I think what's already the case is it has links to the people. It just doesn't have links to the company. So it has the company name, but no link. Seems to me it's like, I think it seems fine, like, but, so it'd be fair to put in like no concerns from the 11 TSC members who were here. And we can add that to the issue itself afterwards. Okay, moving on. The next one is 52857, which is the ambassador program. We did discuss that quickly last week, and just trying to see. I guess there's at least one comment about not blocking, but like these kind of efforts never seem to work out. Otherwise, like I think it's been open. We can address the comments there. It's been open. It would be good to have more +1s. Definitely want to make sure the TC members are in the loop and aware and think it's a good idea. I don't know if anybody else has any comments or suggestions on that one. Okay, if not, I guess we'll move on to the next one, which is depth lib source at experimental web storage. This is 52435. I think
Just
Mateo,
waiting.
you may have added it to the agenda. I
Oh,
guess
sorry,
that's
which
just waiting
issue?
on the SQLite, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Just waiting on the SQLite. Okay, the next one is allow collaborators to share GitHub sponsors link in project README.
I don't see any objection, maybe Tobias?
Yeah, I don't think there was, reading through, I don't think he's objecting. He was just like, hey, should we ask if people want this? But the last comment is kind of like, yeah, if people think it's a good idea, maybe we should just go ahead. So I guess like, does anybody think it's a bad idea? It's gonna cause us some grief or
If you want, I can open an issue at my GitHub sponsor and we see.
well, I think what we want to do is actually write down in the contributing the parameters around it, because there's two things. One, we need to very tightly control what's added, because like there's some automation that needs to be updated to allow that.
Okay.
And we do have I think it's like a couple paragraph description. I've asked Anurag if he wants to add that. If not, I'm happy to like open a PR. But it's just, I guess, still like at this point, I would say, unless there's any concerns or objections, we can just move forward with documenting what it would look like.
Well, one thing, not sure if we discussed this before, but that idea maybe could potentially disturb the offboarding of collaborators, right? And I know we discussed that a lot when we lowered from 18 to 12, and then there was the vote to potentially lower to 9 months to offboard collaborators, right? Like, and that could potentially like kind of like be an incentive to kind of like make collaborators want to stay while they're not really being active. I know we discussed all of this when we were having the conversation on offboarding collaborators,
Mhm.
right? So maybe we should think about that. Like maybe it's not the best incentive.
I guess it's like, I'd rather optimize for helping active collaborators versus, worrying about whether people will hang around or not. But so it's kind of like, do we think it's a good idea? Like, are we actually supporting and helping collaborators? And if the answer is yes, then like doing something positive is good. If it brings with it some people hang around longer than they should, well, that's not great, but like, let's not
Sure.
just do nothing because there's people who
Yeah.
will.
Oh, yeah, no, there's no disagreement with that. It's more like because one of the arguments for lowering the time there was that it's not great for the project having a super long list of collaborators. Seems like, oh, this project is super well supported. Look, there's more than 100 people active here. While in practice, it's not that really. So kind of like we have to consider, right?
Yeah, are you like people will be reluctant to shorten the number? Is that the concern, or?
Maybe you should just comment that in the issue just as a follow-up, see if anyone like kind of agrees or disagrees, and if
Sure,
the sentiment
yeah.
is just like this is fine, then it's fine, and we can move on.
Yeah, sounds good. So continue the discussion in the PR itself.
Yeah.
It's good. Okay, we could move over to the next one, which is the package installation.
I
Works
really need to
report.
go. Sorry, folks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
This one I added on to the agenda. So Jeffrey's been, working in the Next 10. He's sort of been leading the effort in the Next 10 group to sort of document some next steps in terms of like how we believe things should be installed. And there's two parts of what was landed in the Next 10 repo. One was like here's the sort of approach we think makes sense going forward, and then he's got some more specific recommendations to take a first step to move the website instructions into that direction. And the reason I kind of tagged this for the agenda, I think the changes to the website, we can, they're pretty specific, so we can deal with those through the PR itself. In terms of the approach, though, it'd be good to make sure that like we have consensus that is the right approach, because it's different than necessarily what was done before. And really, I think I put into that issue the thing that it boils down to, which I'll paste into the chat as well, which is really, Node itself shouldn't be in the business of installing things like package managers or any other kind of bootstrap kind of things. It should just be installed as a component, just like other bootstrap pieces. So, you would want something else to install Node and a package manager, for example. And so it's like, and I think the follow-on conversation is that if we do agree on that, then we can look at the core pack, and that's what triggered the work in the Next 10 repo and team. We can look at core pack through that lens in terms of like, does it belong as part of Node itself, or maybe it's one of the tools that are recommended for installing things outside of Node or growing to install Node or whatever. So I'm not sure what people think about that. Just the key thing I want is like for people to know that this is the sort of direction that the package maintenance team came out with, and it's like, do we have consensus around that or not? I can ask the reverse question, like, does anybody think Node should be installing package managers and other things as the ideal way to get Bootstrap?
I believe that from different vendors, I don't think so, unless we ship our own package manager, but I don't think that's the case now.
Right, and even if the node project shipped the package manager, this would say like it would be a separate binary, not the node binary that would include it, right?
I haven't thought, I didn't think about the implementation, so I don't know.
Yeah, and this should be like, this is sort of absence of how exactly it's implemented. This is more like there should be something which bootstraps the process, and it can install Node, it can install a package manager, it can install something else. And
Yeah.
then you can say, you know, okay, now that I've sort of done that bootstrap, now I can install my application. You know, but it's the Node is not the root thing that does all the bootstrap for you. And the
Yeah.
implementation, maybe there'll be one, maybe there'll be many that we would end up recommending. But
What would be the case? I mean, for which reasons we would not want that? Maintenance?
so for me, one of the big things is we don't want, I think it's best if Node is not involved in having to, like, say there's a security update in the package manager. We don't want to have to do a release of Node. Node has multiple platform support. You know, like, so that's, our releases are quite big. Whereas if you had some other sort of small, much more, you know, targeted package manager with that has a smaller surface area, then doing a release for that hopefully will be easier than having to do it for Node. And that's like, by separating them, that's one reason why I personally think it's beneficial. The other one is that, like, if you want to version control, like if you want your project to tell you what version of Node to install, you can't really have Node being the bootstrap. So if Node's not the bootstrap, you can basically have in your package, package.json, something says, I want Node 18, right? And then that external package manager can say, well,
Yeah.
okay, I can give you Node 18, I can give you Yarn, you're ready to get started. But if Node's the thing that does that, like once you install Node, you're kind of already predetermined which one of those, right? So that's kind of the other main benefit, I think, that drove this, you know, thinking in terms of the direction.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But what do you use to install Node, basically, the version?
This would, so we're not saying, we don't have the, like, here's the ultimate answer in the end. It's like something else will do that. Jeffrey's recommendations for the website are like, well, we can provide some instructions that say, well, first of all, you know, you will install, maybe it's like manual, choose the version node you want, install it, choose the package manager you want, or maybe it's like, it could be, you know, choose the version of node you want to install it, install core pack, that gives you your package manager, there you go, right? Or it could be like, hey, maybe we haven't looked at some of the external tools. I think the belief is that there's some external tools already that can install Node and other things, in which case we may find one of those as our recommended approach. And I guess the other thing that came up in the conversation was that this is the recommended approach for people who are not, like, you know, ramped up and have very specific requirements. Like, once you're doing for production deployments, you're doing all, you know, you're doing something fancy, that's probably up for you to figure out what the best way. This is like, you came to the website, you just want to get started quickly. What's the path of least resistance for like a developer type install versus like, hey, I'm going to production. That one might actually have a completely different recommendation. This is the, hey, I want to get going and get developing as fast as possible, right? And so it's, but that's still TBD, right? Like, what is the tool? The first step is just like, hey, let's tweak our installation instructions to be more in line with this, which would, and I think there's some specific recommendations in the doc that was landed, so you can go and read what those were in terms of doing the updates.
I see. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments or?
I will have to look at the
And-
details of it. I personally believe, like as long as it's super simple for the end users, that would be most essential. That it is just really aligned and feels natural to do. That's the most important aspect to me.
Yeah, I think like that ideal case may take some time for like a tool that would install the multiple pieces you need to bootstrap to get there. But like it should hopefully be just as simple as it is today in the end.
Yeah, anything making it worse would not be ideal, obviously.
That
So I think
also
so. Go ahead.
that also reflects my thoughts as well. Maybe if we put that on the next on the survey, next end survey, possibly you get pretty much the same answer rate.
Yeah, I like. So to be clear, nobody's suggesting we actually change the binary that's available there today, right? It's like you could still basically, NVM could still do its thing. But long term, if this is our vision of like this is where we'd like to get to, the the instructions might be, I don't know, like today, if there's no tool that will do both pieces for you, it may be like, hey, yeah, the way to get started is you do this, now you're set up, right? I think once that starts to once it's clear there's agreement and that's the way things will work, we hope that like, yeah, maybe the project develops a tool which will make that even easier. So, but I think it should end up being better, I think, from the UX perspective versus trying to cram all the things. Like there's some things you can't achieve, like you can't really achieve, like we mentioned before, if Node is the thing you start with, right? Like you can't get the versioning of Node itself. You've got to wait for fixes to Node to be able to get like an update to the installer package manager kind of thing. And so the UX should end up being better in the end. So I'd say like I know people need time to think. So like we just want to make sure people are thinking about this and like jump into the issue if there's concerns or questions. I think it would be good to clarify them like in the issue itself. And then I think at some point we should say like, okay, we've thought about the concept, like we have consensus on the vision. And then given that, like, okay, the next one would be like, can we then make some decisions on the direction of core pack in terms of that vision, right? Like how does it fit? Okay, let's say coordinating their just security audit report finalization and publication. I think we can take that. Well, I don't know if we should leave that on the agenda. Mir did come last week and we're just waiting to get the report though. So I guess maybe leaving it on the agenda as a reminder makes
Yeah,
sense.
I didn't receive anything yet.
Okay. So we'll leave that. May is the month for elections, so I think there were only two nominees, one for chair, one for vice chair. So I think based on past or governance and past practice, I'll just leave the issue open to the end of the week, and at which point we'll assume it's concluded with those people being acclaimed. Okay, the next one is Node.js tap to JUnit, add publishing credentials to repo secrets.
So I added that. We basically have this package. We are waiting to get published, a few collaborators, I think. And currently, as far as I know, there is either one individual or very few individuals that are capable of publishing this. And the ask is if we as the TSC could change the model of how this gets published. I don't know if anyone here knows any more or has more context about this this package and what's the procedure, but just managing it via GitHub, I didn't get enough comments or interactions.
So
So
which, sorry, go ahead.
So I think originally Tap2JUnit was Johan. I think recent releases were published by Christian, but I don't think Build has ever had like group access to publish that. There was another issue that's requesting a Node.js org on PyPy for, was it GYP or both GYP and Tap2JUnit? Basically, the project has Python packages. This is one, Tap2JUnit is one of them. We use that one in the CI to turn Tap into JUnit XML so that Jenkins can interpret it. And then GYP next is the fork we've got of GYP that we're using in Node and in Node GYP to build add-ons. So we've got those at least two Python packages, which the source code is in GitHub under the Node Foundation, but I'm not aware that we've got like for NPM, we have a Foundation account that we can, we use as an emergency. Well, it was an emergency, but I think we actually do now use it to publish directly to NPM. So something similar, I think, would make sense for these, but I don't know how you'd get the initial. So, we would somehow need to get an account that we do own or control added into those packages so that we could publish to them. But I don't know yet. So again, it either have, from what I remember, we'd either have to ask Christian, which I think people have been trying to do, but we've not, not had a package published yet. He's possibly busy, I don't know. We could go back to Johan to see if he still has permissions to publish this. I don't know if there was anyone else involved that has ever published to the Python, to PyPy for these. That they exist, but Chengzhen?
Yeah, I think currently the Drupal Next is published in a private account, which is mine and a previous maintainer. So it would be great to have a foundation managed account to be added as a maintainer as well.
Yeah, so I would be completely behind having that organization or an account, but we don't have one yet. So whatever we need to do to try and make that happen.
Is there an issue which was asking for that in the admin repo?
Yeah, there was one for the PyPy account thing.
Like, is that all we need, or is there something else that we need as well?
Well, we would need whatever account added to the actual individual. I don't even know how PyPy works, but if it's like NPM, we presumably would need whichever account we end up using added to those packages on PyPy with the appropriate permissions.
I previously requested to create a Node.js organization account on PyPy, but they didn't respond me so far. So I think we probably can start with creating a PyPy account instead of an organization, so that we can add the foundation managed account as a maintainer and then grant the package permission to whom in need of the publish permission. I'm not sure what is the process of applying the PyPy organization, but they didn't respond to me so far. So yeah, and that's a progress of how I mine on the Drip Next part. So I think next step for me would be great to create a organized foundation managed account instead.
Yeah, so basically your like Node.js project or something is like you'd create an account with that name, and then we could share the credentials through 1Password or something like that. That's the
Yeah, agreed.
okay. So it sounds like there's a proposed way forward, and Shenzong's volunteering to kind of push that forward.
Yeah, I
And-
can go forward with creating the foundation account, and probably we can well, I'm not sure about the process within foundation. Maybe I can get in touch with you to move forward with that.
Yeah, I can help create, like, we just have a 1Password account, so I think the idea would be we'll just create a new, there's already a TSC vault, so we could just store that credential in that TSC vault, so I can help you figure that out.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Okay.
Once that's accomplished, we will need to either contact Christian or someone else to acquire permission to publish to the.
Also, I think it will be worth to mention that published PyPy doesn't need a token if you publish it on GitHub Actions. I'll share the Drip Next publish automation with you if wait a second. Because PyPy support a open trusted token, which GitHub Action also supports. So you don't have to set up any credentials to publish if you could set up a GitHub automation, GitHub Actions. I posted the link in the chat.
But there must be some sort of authentication so that, like, not just anybody can
Yeah,
publish.
you just have to set up the authorized repository on PyPy website.
Right, okay,
And
right.
then GitHub Action would authorize with PyPy, and you don't have to set up anything else because there is a open token behind the GitHub Action and the PyPy project. So
Right,
yeah,
okay.
that's how they make the process transparent.
But it does need to be done as I see, like, we authorize
do.
Node.js org to be able to publish effectively.
Yeah, so I do see on the PyPy tab to JUnit page that that it is connected to the GitHub repo. So I'll take a try in adding GitHub Actions to automatically release this.
It would still be
Yeah.
good to make sure we have like a user with,
Yeah.
like we did for the NPMs, which is associated for the accounts for sure.
Yeah, we still need a foundation manager account to act as a maintainer of the package.
Yeah. Okay, anything else we should chat about on this one before we move forward? Okay, if not, the next one is revert certify safe. This is 805. Oh, I see that one was closed since the agenda was generated. So maybe this is really done. So I guess Antoine, has maybe done some work on some of the tools. So does anybody have anything to to chat about this one, or should we assume since it's closed, it's resolved?
I think it was just merge the fix, checking who added the label, so it can
Okay.
probably be removed from the agenda and added if needed.
Okay, sounds good. And I guess similarly, the next one, allowing CI request label for collaborators and unapproved PRs, that also
comes
seems to have
together.
been closed, so. Okay, I'm just adding that note. The next one is planning for next deep dive funding. So the next 10 team has been looking at what the next deep dive would be. I think we've agreed that it's going to be on just like funding and supporting collaborators in general. I'll paste. This is the sort of proposed agenda to start with. But, you know, just really on the agenda as an FYI to TSC members, hopefully we get a good group of people coming to discuss those kind of issues in terms of like, does the project want to try and accept contributions of dollars? Because there was a Twitter discussion on like, hey, how would I even give money to the project if I wanted to give money? So we could talk about like, do we want to take those kind of things? Stay out of that. Would we use crowdfunding? It was mentioned earlier, the open source sustainability thing, the OpenJS launched. You know, should we opt in? How would we spend the dollars if we did? And, you know, is there any way to support and linking people want to pay? But those were just some initial ideas in terms of agenda. I don't know if other people have others. So basically on the agenda for heads up and start contributing in terms of what we should cover there. Okay, so now I'm going to just flip over to strategic initiatives. So let me pull those up. So I don't know, Chenzong, anything new on the Shadow Realm side of things?
Sorry, I don't have any updates so far.
Joey, anything you want to bring up on the snapshot side of things?
Still making some progress on the reproducible snapshot thing, but yeah, other than that, nothing to update.
Okay. On next 10, I think I already mentioned the upcoming the planning for the deep dive. Also, I guess worth mentioning the survey that went out closes at the end of this week. So if anybody's not taking the survey, it'd be great if you did. I think we have quite a lot of respondents. So I'm looking forward to the sort of info and insight we get from that. And then I think that takes us to the end of the list of the initiatives that we have people for. Any other topics or things we should chat about before we close out?
I arrived late, but I meant to announce that Stefan, I don't know how to pronounce their last name, but Stefan is becoming a collaborator, and the boarding session is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central European time. So if you're interested, feel free to join us. I have a question about whether we can use the official Zoom account to schedule the meeting.
If there's no other meeting at the time, I think that's okay.
I think Slack can also be used to schedule call or video call, which I previously used from other people.
I see that tomorrow is there is a security working group meeting at the same time, so we'll probably need to switch to, I guess, Google Meet, because using the personal Zoom account would limit the meeting time to 40 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, any other things we should chat about before we close out?
I have a really quick private business.
Okay. I